Great. Hi, everyone. And today I want to try something. Of course, I've done it typically in the past when we've had paper drafts submitted to for as the midterm or final exam paper, but I haven't done it for during the with Zoom. And so I asked you to bring two copies, hard copies of your final exam, of your latest draft that you've produced. Because one of the things we wanted to do was do a peer review. So there are three people in the class today, so they can exchange their papers with each other. And what I would like you to do is I'd like you to do what I do with your midterm papers, which is go through them, read them, and make comments and suggestions to improve the paper according to the evaluation rubric for the final exam, final draft that I've referenced a number of times, right, through the course of the semester. So here's the grading criteria for the final paper, right? So you should check to make sure that the papers have and use and cite information from at least 3 different chapters, from chapters 3 through 6 of the Creswell and Poth book, and chapters 12 through 19 of the Trompenhaars and Hampton Turner book, whatever is in the final exam there. And so if we go to remind us what the final exam, 13 through 20, sorry, of the Trompenhaars. So 13 through 20, it's not 12 through 19, 13 through 20 of the Trompenhaars Hampton Turner textbook, and chapters 3 through 9 of the Creswell book. So again, make sure, I always have to remember I'm sharing the screen because so there you see, of course, there's the final exam assignment. And of course, also encourage you to sign up for a conference session so that I can talk about you talk to you directly. You come to my office, and I think most people have signed up to come to my office so far. Like, they want human personal interaction. They don't want to work through the computer, through the Zoom, even though, of course, I still want to record the sessions so that you can look at them on your own. Gloria and anybody else who's not here, you can exchange with each other electronically. You can let me also make sharing the screen an option for the everybody. So if I go to share screen, and Guante Hawk, how do I make share screen available? Click here. This Yori Cham Ka Ja Ka Tung. Yeah. Yoro. To make allow everybody to share screen.
Yeah, this one.
This one?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So like Gloria, you should be able to share your screen with someone else. Who else is not here? So only Gloria is the only person not here in terms of, thank you very much, Glendale, I appreciate it. So, but there are 3 other students. So I would, so somebody's asking, well, I mean, you have Gloria, you have your midterm, your final exam draft, right? I wrote comments and sent it back on Cyber Campus. So if you've made some changes, please open that up. And so I would like to do this.
I was talking about the
final exam. Yeah. The final exam. So this is called a peer review session, right? I would like you to do with each other what I did, which is, hopefully you had a chance to look at my comments and maybe, revised your paper a little bit on the basis of those comments. And so I would like you to do. So Gloria, since you're the person who's not here, you have to do that electronically with somebody. So, okay. So yeah. So you have the right to, sign up for the consultation on Zoom, of course, if you want to. Yeah, I made that an option, right? It's just that I was surprised that few people seem to want that. They want to come to my office. So that's great. Okay. All right. So, and so let's do that for the first hour. If you exchange with each other and spend, 15, 20 minutes going through the paper, take a pen and write down, I wish that camera would look at me. Hi, camera. I have to get up. Like I'm a MC of a show here. Take a pen and write down on that piece of paper, that draft that they give you, your comments on that piece of paper. And then do that for the first 15, 20 minutes. And then for the next 10, 15 minutes, talk with them, right, about your comments. So you have 2 copies of the paper. So please exchange those copies with somebody. Gloria, please contact somebody in the classroom to communicate with them electronically, to share your screen. They can send you a copy of their paper electronically for you to go through and write comments on it, download it, write comments on it, and then open up and go through the draft that you've reviewed with them online, like on share screen. And, like I do, like we've done. And again, this is the first time I've tried to do this with Zoom. And it's kind of a test to see of our computer skills, like how much of our computing skills have we developed here. So you can do that right now. So please go ahead and exchange your papers. So the students in class, you might want to exchange with somebody. Gloria, you might want to send your paper to someone so that that person could go through the paper and review it. And somebody can send your paper to Gloria electronically as well. And let's see how this works. I want to see if this is effective, because typically we would do this if everybody's in the classroom together, but to have some people in class and some out, it'll be interesting to see how this works. So please go ahead and do that. And again, the task is to help each other improve your papers. So please go ahead and exchange and with whomever. And Munsun, can you come talk to me? Can you come up? Can you come up here? All right, so and if anybody has questions, they can, of course, ask them. What are some thoughts about this? What is globalization? Interact. So Gloria, have you found somebody to exchange with? Gloria? Gloria? Hello, Gloria. Gloria.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Find somebody to exchange your paper with?
But I asked Deok, but I don't know if he sees my message.
Okay, okay. And Kritika, did you find somebody to exchange with?
But I can do it with Kritika if she has no one.
Well, you probably will do it
Okay.
all. There's only 3 of you that, so you can all do with each other. Okay. Work
Yeah.
together.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
saying that U.S. basically U.S. supports other national. So U.S. globalization, serves self-determination, which if they share a common theme. Encouraged. But it's the globalization of the U.S. in Russia. So how are we doing? Are you reviewing each other's papers? And you're going to talk. So like for the first 15 minutes, you would go through the paper. And then in the second 15 minutes for the first paper, you should talk to each other about your comments. I don't know if anybody else does this, like other professors do this. We used to do this a lot before the pandemic, but see how it goes now. So the question is, national culture distinctions from West globalization. So, then how do you explain, for example, Europe is cooperating more and more? There's Russia, Ukraine, Poland, Hungary, and other countries where these cosmopolitan rights that, for example, Trump was making terms. Globalization is good, so you should try to promote women, promote other groups historically that have been he doesn't talk about LGBTQ. That's certainly by chapter 18. You can be effective in making money with your company if you have a person that can exploit these cultural conflicts, cultural differences. So, and that might be true, but still you have these nationalist reactions in Poland and Hungary against LGBTQ rights, and even in South Korea, it's support president with a hostility to feminism is a big problem. So does that mean that basically it's globalization is something that emerges as justification for opposing a new threat? That even globalization looks for it. It looks for China, it's the Communist Party, and it looks for Russia. And we have a common enemy. Then, oh yes, we talk about globalization because we love each other as allies, common allies against the perceived enemy. So the enemy is my friend. Summarizes post-war globalization. In the Cold War, globalization were feasible for a while, but it generated nationalist backlashes. Brexit in Britain, 2016, election of Trump, in the US in 2016, the rise of authoritarianism. In China, in Poland, in Hungary, Brazil, and other places, all also go back to style reactions. Globalization and its threat to conservative interests that control the state. Status quo in the state. New threats from the Cold War with Russia, China. youth forum. American Organization in America. So let's start. So let's save this. And, so, your name is Mia. Okay, so now we can put some evidence. These are just ideas we wrote down. So now we have evidence to support the trends, right? So globalization. So let's look. I will make the notes for the book. So if we look, for example, here at I've had my notes from Franklin Turner here. We go to writing with culture. So this is my big file, but I've been uploading each week. I upload parts of this file. So all these notes in the what's the keyword search globalization? Chapter 17, it says highlights the emergence of managing culture creation, strategic alliances, mergers, and acquisitions. They are increasingly pursued because of technical globalization strategies. So let's go to chapter 17. We want to cover chapter 13 to 20. So there's a lot of notes. You can see there's 231 pages here. So I'm going to find notes here on globalization. So it's globalization index. So globalization. So here's the global. So it states here, these notes, big chapters. This is chapter 16. So you can see I see in page 279. So in here is on page 279. Here's on page 280. So here I global here. So global. Here is page 283. Right. So as we move towards a common emphasize the approach, not even globalizing this way. So only some members of America and central cultural tenets. So that's on page 284. So I put this in my words. So I didn't copy this. I put it in my words. You can just take that, copy that into a YouTube word. And in fact, yeah, so I say here about but then you can say, for example, that only some internet will be willing to abandon cyclical tenants. Say, page 280, 284. Yeah, I put all the notes on the site. So if you go to Cyber Campus, you can see. Yeah, I mean, I could put it all here in material, right? So when you so if you go here to methodology and you look at material, you can see, I have the I put it under assignments. That's where I put the notes. So like for example, week 15, the students were supposed to write this paragraph for Thursday. And so I have here, this is the essence, this is the paragraph topic for Thursday. And here is the notes. So each of these notes for the chapters are under the assignments. So for you could download it in week 14. You could see here, for example, again, here's chapter 16 to 17 of the Turner and him, Trump and Turner book. You go back to 13. You can see here chapters 13, 14, 15. Okay. And so this is typically, this is how I write a paper. I go through and write down my ideas, my brilliant individual ideas. Oh. And then I got to have some scholarly evidence to support my brilliant ideas. And then when I go look for scholarly evidence, I have to change my idea because this makes important statement, because only some members of national culture will be willing to abandon central these. So what? These conservative elements will exist. Aha, see, it's really up to 347 words here. It's easy. And so what else about globalization here? So that's chapter 13. Are you making progress? We're making progress? Because, you know, we won't spend the whole 2 hours on this. I just wanted to spend the first half of the class on this, okay? And then go back to the notes. Chapter 19. So what about over here? Effective use of engagement globalized. It globalizes the best local practice continuum. That's the leader of the organization, the multinational corporation. So how, and that's on page 332 of chapter, I think it's chapter 19. So let's copy that, and you can say
Kritika, could you send me your email address so that I can share to you the document and you can share yours to me?
So, so we can say that corporations have an incentive, right? But and then it's the reason why this globalization happens. When governments permit it, and encourage it, cooperation with their ally, then corporations within them, within their countries, will have opportunities to expand the local practice, local national practices to their international operations. That's like Samsung, Hyundai, all about that, right? They're all over the U.S. They're all over the U.S. because South Korea and U.S. and the United States are close allies. I mean, they're everywhere. U.S. against North Korea and now China certainly explains part of that. And so you can see, okay, so I need some evidence for that claim. And what's the evidence? Effective leaders who engage in best practices become transnational, globalize the best practices locally continuously. And that's chapter, was it 19? Chapter 19, page 332. And so you are so then you got to come up with some another point here. So what else can we say about globalization? Let's see what else. And that might be it. So how about we go to the trumpet, the Cresswell and Ploth book. Cresswell and Ploth. So what's Cresswell? Semester. So no, nothing in chapter 3. No, nothing in chapter 4 or chapter 5. No. about critical? Theory, theory. This is more about methodology. It's not about the content. Or you can even say critical perspectives in social science highlight the role of politics in making globalization happen, making cultural expansion happen. So critical theories highlight political interest in shaping perceptions and attitudes and policies with power. And so critical theories. So where is it? We're talking critical theories. So we talk about critical theories. So critical ethnography. So critical researchers are typically politically active individuals in advocating for marginalized groups. So critical analysts having the costs that the marginalized pays. Political nomination. So we put it very much. So it's like question. So there you can see that's how you start to develop the purpose. So you can say, so what's the significance of the statement? So think about what's that? Because that means that what we assume to be natural serves some interest. Observers assume neutral. Serves Okay, so are you working on your second paper? Are you finished? All finished? Okay, so let's go back then. So let's go ahead and hopefully you found that useful and interesting. And of course, you can do it after class and continue to do it after class as well. And you know, the idea is also that hopefully you also learn, you can share the ideas and comments that I also, I gotta be careful, I don't push this thing off the stage, it would be disaster. I almost lost this. I would have destroyed my computer. Gosh, gotta be careful in this world. That hopefully you share in the ideas and comments that I also wrote in your papers. And I know I wrote a lot of ideas, but I think that's my purpose. It's to, you know, engage in a dialogue with you so that you think more. Remember, make sure you maintain your word limit. It shouldn't be more than, you know, what, 550 words, not including the footnotes and the headers and everything. Because, you know, again, if you have to write concisely and specifically, you're more likely to clarify your own thoughts. And that means refine what your thoughts are and think, and you learn more that way. And that's what I do. I mean, like I told you, I have homework all the time too. I've got to write papers and I got to make presentations, and I've got a presentation coming up tomorrow night. I have a Bulgarian Studies Association meeting, and I'm participating through Zoom. So I've got to make a presentation about midnight tomorrow night. And, you know, I prepared a PowerPoint slides and everything for that. And hopefully I'll be able to produce a paper that I can get published somewhere. It's with the Library of Congress in Washington. So it's kind of a big event because that's an important academic institution in the US. Okay, so so I have to make a presentation. I speak for 15 minutes and on Zoom. And but that reminds me, again, if you haven't signed up for if you haven't signed up for a debate, so let me go to my Google Drive here account and see who has signed up. Just to remind you, not to see who signed up, but just to remind you to sign up for a in-class debate. And so we're running out of time here. We have nobody signed up for Friday. If somebody needs to sign up, they can still sign up for on Friday if they want to. Otherwise, we'll do an in-class typical debate. And then we have one more debate next week. And I guess I will be the opponent. If somebody else wants to sign up to be the pro opponent, they can do that there as well. Again, close this and open up the conference session. So again, this is the, I got to make sure you can see the screen, share screen. And so you can see here's the, so people are signing up. Yeah, that's great. Tuesday. And so please do that if you haven't. And I will talk with you about your paper. Okay. And all right. So for the rest of the class, let's look at the notes. The notes, I mean, Trompenars and Hampton Turner, this is the 4th edition of the book, right? The 4th edition of their book. And they've changed it quite a bit in this 4th edition. I am not certain as to why, other than the fact that I know I can speculate. Trompenar sold his company, his consulting service to KPMG, big consulting firm, accounting firm, KPMG. So Trompenaar's company is now part of KPMG. And he definitely wants people to buy his software system that goes with the book. So this is a return to a discussion of some themes that we've already talked about in class. But you know, we can talk about them some more now. Emphasizing again, this book, you know, you can tell it was finished right when the pandemic was starting. I think there's one reference at the beginning of the book to the pandemic. There's no other references to the book, to the pandemic in the book. So the pandemic is upsetting and disrupting everything. I mean, for example, in this chapter, there's reference to how great it is to have just-in-time management. You should integrate your global operations to emphasize the strengths of your operations in South Korea versus Brazil versus Italy, and learn from those local experiences and make them into universal policies of your corporation, building upon the exceptions of excellence in those different national contexts, and that you should try to be most efficient through integrating your operations in that way. Of course, then with the pandemic and the massive disruption in global supply chains, it'll be interesting to see how Trompenaars and Hampton Turner or the other authors respond to that, because now there's all this discussion, not necessarily by corporate leaders, although they tend to parrot or reflect the government officials that rule the states of South Korea, United States, and European Union, about redundancies, not redundancies, resilience, right? That we want to reshore our corporate capabilities, less focus on just-in-time management, having redundancies in terms of manufacturing capacity. So this is, of course, this makes, of course, the Chinese model, one could argue, more and more attractive, because the Chinese have been all about making sure that we have all of these capacities within China as well, that we have the capacity to make our own masks, not just masks, but including advanced production capacities. Like, we want all of the production capacities that necessary to make a Chinese airliner, a Chinese aerospace company that can produce civilian jet aircraft like Boeing and like Airbus in China. And so the Chinese model, oh my God, that's really a good idea. And so now, not so much business leaders and corporate leaders in the United States, but American senators in the US Congress are saying this. We have to reshore our production capacities. And the government, US government, is spending money to develop these local capacities. Like, for example, in my home state of Ohio in the United States, Intel is partnering with US government to build a $20 billion semiconductor factory. Samsung is being encouraged, as well as the Taiwan semiconductor company, to build factories in the United States because they're close allies with the United States. So that was emphasized as I was working with Ms. Moon. That notion of politics and political impacts are critically important for understanding the development of globalization and the development of corporations, because these corporations, you know, they're not all powerful. Corporations bow down and obey the governments, whether they're oil companies or at least when it comes to bow down and obeying the United States and their other corporate headquarters. So that's not a theme so much in the Trompenaars and Hampton Turner book, but it's critically important. You cannot explain globalization unless you include the role of government policies and government strategies. And that's briefly talked about in the Trompenaars and Hampton Turner book when they talk about vision. You have to have vision. It can't just be catering to customer preferences today. You have to have a vision as a corporate leader, as an organizational leader of new products and new technologies that could create new market niches that you can dominate. But you have to, they say in this chapter 18 and 19, they reiterate these points, but you also have to have continuous discussion and dialogue with your clients and customers, so that you don't come up with what he calls the perfect market niche of no customers. You come up with some new product that nobody wants because it's too advanced. You didn't consult with those people, your customers and clients. You didn't get their feedback. They aren't aware of what you're doing. And you come up with some new product that nobody wants to buy, even though it's new and great in your view, but nobody really knows that that's their niche. And that seems to be really critically important in terms of, because keep in mind, states, the United States of America, South Korea, Cambodia, Belgium, Ireland. These are all big organizations. That's all they are. Vast, complicated organizations. That's all the United States, Korea, Cambodia, Belgium. That's all they are. They exist only up here. But of course, when we talk about nations, we're talking about organizations that I feel very emotional about. I love that organization, the United States. I love it. It's who I am. I'm so devoted. I want to fight and defend it. Oh, that's, you know, the emotional component. People don't typically get that emotional about Samsung and Hyundai, and although they can, because if they think Samsung and Hyundai make South Korea great, they represent South Korea in the world. So people can get emotional about Samsung and Hyundai and Toyota and Renault and Peugeot and Chrysler and General Motors and Exxon, because they are flagship corporations. So that's a theme in an article that I wrote. But this notion of vision, this seems to be particularly the case in big tech. Like I told you, the semiconductor, you know, that creates that thing, the computer, this thing, the computer, was created not through private companies. It was created through support to the US government during the space program. They built the semiconductor to create the rockets to put men on the moon during the Cold War, to contain the Soviet Union and convince you that the American system is the best system without having to prove it on the battlefield with the Soviet Union, because we have nuclear weapons. And if we have World War III, it'll be the end of the world. So you compete indirectly. And that is repeated again and again and again, that this vision in the form of the national government's strategy plays a critical role in developing new technologies and new customer client preferences. I mean, again, we're on the internet here. The internet's great. There wasn't a public-private client demand for the internet 50 years ago. It was created by the US Defense Department as part of containment to facilitate the cooperation of US companies and research organizations, universities, in developing military technologies to fight the Soviet Union, to contain the Soviet Union. And now it's everywhere. And Trump and Hampton Turner, they have to devote half the book to going digital. I mean, it's the best example of how strategy and vision go together. They lump that out under ascription. They do make a reference in the book to how, for example, you have a vision of something you want to achieve. They don't talk about the Cold War in the book, but they do make a reference to the European Union, that we want to integrate Europe and the European Union. And that is the ascribed value that because we love Europe as Frenchmen, as Italians, as Germans. And they emphasize that also again, and they make a reference to it in chapter 18 or 19 of this week's readings, right? That tradition means that we focus on the European market. And on that basis, you have a vision and you communicate with other European companies and European clients and customers to come up with products that somehow appeal to people in terms of being part of the European project. But that role of vision is critically important, and it's understood. I talk about this in my European politics class. I don't talk about it here too much, but Trump and Hampton Turner are from Europe, right? And this notion of vision through government action that corporations and companies then coalesce around and organize themselves around has always been a focus in Europe and in Asia, in China and in Korea and Japan, that the state officials representing the nation should provide leadership in organizing and coordinating societal capabilities and resources to develop the country as rapidly as possible when if you're economically and weak and technologically primitive, you will be imperialized, you'll be colonized by enemies. So you have to have a strong military, but you can't have a strong military unless you have a strong economy. And that means technology. And that means the government must provide leadership in developing the country as rapidly as possible. And that's what Korea is all about, right? In my age, from the time I was born, it was one of the poorest countries in the world. And in 50 years, it's one of the most wealthy. Why? And that didn't just happen on its own. It happened because there was vision by the South Korean authorities that, like Park Chung-hee said, nobody's going to pay attention to what we have to say as long as we're poor here in South Korea. As long as we're poor, nobody cares what we have to say. And so that needs to be, I think, more emphasized even more than it is in the Trump and Arthampton Turner book. That if you're going to plan a strategy or vision for your company, find out what your government wants. And the U.S. public, the U.S. population as a whole, the U.S. polity as a whole, they have difficulty with this notion because, like Great Britain, I talked about this in the European politics class last week. Like Great Britain, United States and Great Britain industrialized without some kind of national plan or strategy. They are early industrializers. United Kingdom and United States were early industrializers. And as early industrializers, they industrialized without a government plan to industrialize. So Americans tend to think that this is like natural, that economic development and economic success and prosperity happens without the government being really heavily involved beyond, for example, enforcing property rights against criminals and thieves. So you need a court system, you need a police department to arrest the bad guys, and you need a prison to put the bad guys. But that's pretty much it. And so the Americans and the British, to a lesser extent, have this luxury from their history to believe that somehow this process happens naturally. And that's partly reflected in that guided missile culture of the Americans, that, we don't have to have a vision that's directed from the top, like the Eiffel Tower model in France and Germany, where there's the corporate head is at the very top, and it's like a structure going on down. But you can view France the entire country of France that way, and the entire country of Germany that way, and the entire country of South Korea that way, as organizations. And corporations are subunits within that big national organization. Samsung, Hyundai, there are subunits within the big national South Korea organization. And so the Americans, they don't want to accept this. They don't, because this is the topic in the American politics class that I've been teaching this semester. But the only way this happens in the United States is when you talk about national security and military defense, that we get around this collective self-forgetting or self-selecting perception to not see the role of the state when we talk about fighting communism during the Cold War. So I told you the space program and the US Defense Department emerged around containment of the Soviet Union in the nuclear era, where we're fighting each other indirectly and through competition. And that is how we developed all these technologies, including the internet and semiconductors, that are the basis of all of this. And it continues to this day. The CIA and the Defense Department, they start new companies, new big tech companies, like Palantir. Palantir is some big data software company that does security. That was started by the CIA. They funded that company because we need to find the terrorists. We need to use the internet and find out who's preparing to carry out Islamic jihadist terrorism against us. So we need to analyze all the trillions and trillions of pieces of data on the internet very fast, using big software with big computers to fight the terrorists. So, all right. So let's go through the notes a bit here. So, the ultimate differentiator of survival. Yes. Oh, okay. Thank you. So, okay. Oh, all right. So let's. Oh, okay. Thank you. I would have forgotten. Okay. So we go here to. We go here to English, and you go to Cyber Campus, and then we go to login, and and so we go to English here, and we go to methodology, and then we go to attendance, and then we go to add and smart attendance, and your smart attendance number is 258. 258 is your smart attendance number. So we go here to chatting and put in 258 into the chatting box here, and 258 is your smart attendance number. And okay, and so there you go. And so I also have something connected here to the vote, and we go here to scroll down here, and all these things I've got lined up here. So where did I put that? Okay, yes. So here's a question I have for you. And so make sure, I gotta make sure I'm sharing the screen, and go here to share screen, and go to here, and go here. So I want you to respond to this. Of course, you have until 12 o'clock. It says here, please respond to the following statement. In big tech, like Google, Facebook, vision, we've just been talking about vision, is much more important than client customer preferences in determining corporate company success. And so is vision, you need to, I mean, like I said, nobody was clamoring or demanding, we need the internet. This wasn't something that customers, clients were asking for. It was created by the Defense Department, and it's happening right now again. And what do I mean? Here's a news report from yesterday in the New York Times business section, virtual reality. They've been talking about virtual reality and artificial intelligence for years now. And Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, he has put all of his betting chips, you know, when you go to a casino and you bet on the roulette wheel and you lay your chips, he's put all of his company's chips on virtual reality and renamed his company Meta for Meta Universe, not Universe, Meta Universe, right? But they've been talking about this since before I got here to Korea. There hasn't been a big demand from customers. We want virtual reality. We want to do it. It's not something that has emerged, but you know what? It will emerge. And you sort of know it from gaming, from World of Warcraft and these other games that were the beginning of virtual reality. Imagine you're a player in a game, right? So it goes on here. Apple has now made its big commitment to virtual reality. The company has enlisted Hollywood directors like Jon Favreau to help its effort to create products that blend the physical and virtual worlds. So again, Mark Zuckerberg, the leader of one of the biggest companies in the world, is completely committed to this, right? And it says, he's well. I wanted to highlight how they've had these virtual reality headsets for years. Since before I got here, they were developing these, and it never took off. I mean, there wasn't a customer demand for this. So I'm not going to go through the whole, I just feel kind of like I'm not doing my job if I'm just reading newspaper reports to you here. So I just want to highlight some points here. Separately, at its annual conference for developers on Monday, Apple plans to unveil software tools that will allow apps to add new camera and voice functionality, laying the groundwork for a hands-free interface that customers will eventually be able to navigate on the headset, according to two people familiar with the project and documents viewed by the New York Times. They've had these headsets for I've been here for 12 years, 13 years. So at least 15 years, I've seen these headsets for sale, and they haven't really been popular. Do you have a headset? Do you have a virtual reality headset? Do you know anybody that's got a virtual reality headset? You do? I don't. But they know they have this, it's going to take off. They just know this. And they're probably right. Right? I don't know why they're right. You just sort of know that they're right. The planned headset, I mean, Facebook developed a headset a while ago, or Google did. While it was in Bulgaria, Google developed a headset. So that's 15 years ago. The planned headset for Apple, you put on these virtual reality goggles, so you just see the virtual reality through this thing on your head, right? Like this. The planned headset will thrust Apple into an emerging competition to define the future of mixed reality. Microsoft, Google, and Facebook's parent company, Meta, are in various stages of developing software and hardware to create environments where three-dimensional digital images in the physical world coexist. So this highlights how Mark Zuckerberg has committed Facebook to this completely. This is the next frontier. Again, this is not new. This is the next frontier, said Carolina Milanese, a technology analyst with Creative Strategies, a technology research firm. For Apple, this is about a new computing experience, an opportunity to engage customers with a device, and new experiences that build on what they've done with context. So with content. Now, keep in mind, governments play a role in encouraging these customer preferences and client preferences. If the Chinese government pushes its companies in China and its consumers in China to really get into virtual reality, I guarantee you this will take off. And I'm sure they are going to do it. It goes on here, keep devoting resources to this, even though it's struggled to take off. It says here, Apple's development of virtual reality content and software tools is central to creating experiences that give its future headset purpose. Its last major new product, the Apple Watch, was launched with 3,000 apps, but struggled to take off because tech reviewers said few of those apps were useful. Similar shortcomings that dogged Meta Quest's virtual reality headset, which surpassed 10 million sales last year because many view it as a gaming device. So they talk about, what they did. I mean, they said here it was because Macintosh came up with the iPhone, and that became, everybody had to have a smartphone because Apple came up with iPhone 15 years ago, right? I mean, that's again an example of vision. And that's what Apple under Steve Jobs was all about, vision, right? Tim Cook's chief executive now, because Steve Jobs died 11 years ago, has been talking about the potential of augmented reality for years. In 2016, he told investors that the company was investing heavily in it and considered a great commercial opportunity. Around that time, many employees on Apple's campus were reading Ready Player One, a futuristic novel about virtual reality, and talking about the possibilities of creating Apple's own mixed reality world. The software tools from Apple and extend a multi-year push to encourage developers to build augmented reality applications, apps. The company kicked off that effort in 2017, so that's 5 years ago, with ARKit, which allowed developers to use the iPhone's camera and motion sensors to place digital objects in the real world and let people interact with them. However, about 70% of Apple's developers said they did not use that tool. Like according to a survey of more than 500 developers by Creative Strategies. So that's the reason for this question I have. In big tech and maybe in big pharma, vision is much more important than customer client preferences at this time, whether it be 1999 or 2005 or 2022. Vision is much more important than client customer preferences in 1999, customer client preferences in 2005, or 2000 customer preferences in 2022 in determining corporate company success. And when you start talking about vision, you have to start talking about government policy. What is the policy of the Chinese government, the US government, the South Korean government? Because as a corporate leader, as an organizational leader, whether you're in the for-profit sector or in the nonprofit sector like Creative Strategies, you have to, when you talk about vision, you're going to have to talk about government policy. So how do you respond to this? Is vision more important than client customer preferences in determining corporate company success? There's no right or wrong answer. All right. I'm just, trying to show you what I think are the significance of these statements. And remember, I'm all about international relations and political science. I study strategy. I'm all into strategy. That's what I studied in graduate school. So I'm trying to show the significance of all these approaches. And again, the United States became the global hegemon because of the Cold War and the big tech advantages that it got from fighting the Cold War indirectly through containment, like going to the moon, just to show you America's better than the Soviet Union. So in big tech, vision is more important than customer client preferences to determine corporate company say. So you strongly agree, maybe, nah, I'm not so certain, disagree or strongly, or am I basically am I exaggerating this statement. So let's have you talk to each other a bit. So let me divide you into groups. And so into breakout rooms and put you in 2 groups and say, go. And so please join the groups. Please join those groups. So Gloria and Munson Young and, oh, well, there's only 3 of you here. So I guess maybe I'll put Kwanteok in room 1 as well. And are you in that? What did I do? Did I shut it down? You're in room 2? Oh, no. See, I get all confused when things are not in. Oh, okay. Munsun. Okay, no. All right. So would I put you in room 1 then? Okay. There you go. So you're all in room 1, Gloria, Kwandeok, Munsun Young. And so who's going to speak for the group? And do I have to Motun so Hawaii Shield Tatki? Do I have to press on that? Click on it. Okay. So you have 60 seconds. So who's going to speak for the group? And let me I should have done this earlier. So heads, it's Munsun Young, the bottom person, and it's tails. So where did you go, Kritika? Kritika, come back, Kritika. Where did you go? And oh, you left the group. That's right. You're supposed to leave the group. Sorry. Heads, it's Kwandeok, and it is heads. So Kwandeok. Oh, say Kwandeok. Please help Kwandeok speak on this topic as to where you are on this question about whether or not vision is much more important than what people want today. Vision is much more important than what people say they want today on June 8th, 2022, in determining big tech company success. In that, anyways, just saying that, but so, and so what's my position? Okay, so I'll flip a coin and heads, I strongly agree or agree. And it's heads. It's too easy. Oh, well, because heads is I strongly agree. And it's heads, so I strongly agree. That vision is more important than what customers want. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That basically what customers want, you can eventually convince customers to buy what you want. That's a theme in the book, right? That Trumpenars and Hampton Turner in chapter 18 and 19 say that if you come up with wonderful visionary products, you end up having a product that nobody wants to buy. And and of course there must be examples of that. That I can't come, that I don't have in mind right now, of things that were so creative and wonderful, but nobody wanted them. But you don't really have to worry about that in big tech, because sooner or later, everybody will want it, including virtual reality and whatever else. Like eventually all of us are going to get a headset. So I strongly agree. Why do I strongly agree? I strongly agree. I should write down my ideas, because I cannot compete. Like, look, even if I didn't want a smartphone, you have to have a smartphone. I didn't really have a smartphone until 2018 or 2019. And then I had to get one because it became increasingly clear to me, you can't function in this world unless you have a smartphone. You've got to have a smartphone, and everybody else around you assumes that you have a smartphone. And then the pandemic happened and it became obvious. You have to have a smartphone if you want to be a real citizen of Korea. You have to have a smartphone if you want to be a real citizen of your country. You can't go into Kwandeok building unless you show the QR code that you've been vaccinated, and you got to have a smartphone. And the same thing is going to be the case with headsets for virtual reality. Soon everybody else is going to be using them. And since everybody else is going to be using them for recreation, for virtual business meetings, I can't even really imagine it. You're going to have to do it too, or else you're going to be marginalized. You're going to be considered weird. I mean, I remember when people back all the way into the 1990s refused to get a computer and get on internet. And there was one professor that I had at University of Pittsburgh, and people used to mock him. He's very much a traditional professor. He doesn't have he's not on it. Like, what professor's not on internet? You've got to be on internet, which means you have to have a computer, which means you have to have the software. So that's why I would strongly agree that because I cannot ignore what everybody else is doing. Like, I'm not a big gamer. Are you a big gamer? Do you know people that are big gamers? Like, evidently they're shaping the world for everybody else because this first virtual reality is being done within games. Like, people are holding business meetings in Fortnite. You know, Fortnite is some game, that multiplayer game. Like, people are actually doing business in these games. I've never played on it. I've never done World of Warcraft or Fortnite, but sooner or later, I'm going to have to do it because everybody else is doing this. And so who's going to set the pace? Government agencies like the Defense Department, like, will the Defense Department of Korea or the Defense Department of the United States, they're going to start using virtual reality. They're already doing drone strikes through cameras, right? Are they going to start using, what would they do? I mean, it's hard. I mean, this is what you come up, this is what I mean, coming up with these visions of how is virtual reality going to play a role in security strategy in dealing with Russia and China? Is it going to involve like encouraging Russian hackers and like setting traps for Russian hackers and North Korean hackers, using virtual reality sites to encourage people to come in, and you gather information about them, and then you gather and then you develop a profile of it, and then when they start to doing trouble, engaging in hacking activity, you have the background information from there that they didn't know you had. Like, I don't know. I mean, why would the Defense Department, why would the CIA, why would they spend money, be interested in this beyond gamers? I mean, I can imagine they would use this information for training. Like, I remember 40 years ago when the first video games came out in arcades, the US military, the Army was buying these big machines. They were the first video games from the early 1980s. One was a tank battle. And the idea was this tank battle video game would help the Army people who drive tanks, who man tanks, to practice their skills as drivers and users of weapons on tanks. So training would be one aspect. So, Kwandeok, what do you think? Oh. Thank you for.
In this statement, I also agree with Professor Ben. If company provides good vision, consumers will have to follow. Think about also Facebook, or in case of Zoom, in pandemic, Zoom provide new technology, and everyone, include us, are following this technology. So I think good vision is much more important.
Is one of the reasons why I like. Is it? I don't think it's working. I don't hear it. Testing.
It's working.
Testing. It's not working.
It's working. It's working.
Um. If not, I'll shut down and go to the other my laptop. But testing. Okay, well, you know what? We won't screw around with it. I'm gonna have to shut down the computer anyway in 15 minutes to save the file. So I'm gonna shut down the computer and open up my laptop